I'm too old for this shit. So awesome. This video is brought to you by all my Patreon supporters. Go Team Awesome! Yokosu peeps, it's Oz. So after making my 10-year Japan anniversary video, I got this message. Hey Oz, great to know it was your 10-year anniversary in Japan. Congrats. But I don't get something. You said that you don't like Japanese entertainment, such as manga, anime, idols, and etc. It makes me wonder, what made you stay there for so long? I mean, a lot of people just live in Japan for the job, culture, and entertainment. So what made you stay in Japan so long? Thank you, Jason. In that video, I talked about my time in Japan and some of the positives and negatives and some of the things that I like and don't like about Japan. And I kind of mentioned I don't like a lot of the things that Japan is famous for. So let me explain. I think the best way to answer this for Jay is to go step by step. So let's begin. But before I do, have I mentioned that I have a free newsletter that I send out once a month? I answer questions like this one, as well as have links to videos and articles that are not available on YouTube. So to join my newsletter, just click on the link in the information section below. Alright, so let's start with anime and manga. I don't want to date myself too much, but I grew up in the generation just before anime and manga had a big boom in North America. I mean, there were technically Japanese anime shows like Astro Boy in North America at that time. But when I was a kid and watching cartoons, there weren't that many Japanese animations, and I didn't know that they were Japanese animations. For example, when I was young, I did watch Astro Boy, and I watched this other show called Voltron, which was about these cool robotic tigers or lions that become one giant robot. I assumed that show was American. Because it was dubbed in English, I had no idea it was Japanese. And my sister used to watch a show called Sailor Moon, which is also a Japanese animation, but I had no idea that it was Japanese because it was always in English and the main character was a blonde. But then Pokemon hit the world and everyone learned about Japanese animation. But by the time Pokemon was big, I was already in high school and university, and I was no longer into cartoons. I was into girls. So I missed the entire Japanese manga and anime boom in North America. And just as Japanese animation and manga were getting translated into English and being brought to North America, I decided to leave North America and come to Japan. But when I came to Japan, I spoke zero Japanese and had no idea about Japanese culture at all. And all the manga here was in Japanese and all the anime was in Japanese, so once again, I didn't know what was going on. And when I came here, it was 2003 and there was no YouTube or social media sites like that, so there was no way for me to watch anime or read manga with English subtitles. So in Japan, I was stuck with only Japanese. And despite being surrounded by fans of Japanese anime and manga, both Japanese people and foreigners, I just couldn't get into it. And not just the language barrier, I did attempt to try to watch anime and try to read some manga. I read some Conan, and I tried to watch Naruto and One Piece and stuff like that. I watched the Ghibli movies, which were okay, but I just really couldn't get to animation that much, and it was never my go-to entertainment while I was in Japan. Alright, let's move on to idols. So when I moved to Japan the second time in 2011, idols were really huge in Japan. I'm sure they've always been around, they've been huge since the 80s, but in 2011 when I came, that was like the peak of AKB48. And at that time, K-pop still wasn't as popular as it has become now, so in Japan it was still second to J-pop. And a lot of the music was girl idol bands. And I won't lie, when I first watched videos by AKB48, I thought the music was really catchy, and of course the girls were really cute. Idol music is very fun and it's a very colorful, interesting atmosphere, but just as quickly as I kind of got into it, I got out of it. I think there's two main reasons I didn't really get into idol groups. The first one was there were just so many of them and they all looked the same and they all sounded the same. And I'm not being racist and just saying that because they're all Asian. They literally all have a similar music and all wear similar costumes. And I think the reason why I didn't become an idol fan and didn't get into the group so much is because of the fans. And I don't like to judge. I mean, you can do whatever you want and enjoy whatever kind of entertainment you want, but there was something about idol fans that just creeped me out. I'm sure there's women who are fans of idols, and especially teenage girls who are a fan of idol groups, because I think that's the main target. They're trying to get that kind of target for the idol bands. But unfortunately, the people that showed up and who are the hardcore fans of idols seem to be guys in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and even 60s. and they show up with their fan memorabilia and their glow sticks, and they memorize all the lyrics to all the songs, and they can even do all the exact same dance moves. It's quite a sight to see, and I'm sure they know all the information, the names, the likes and dislikes of all the members in the band as well. And that reminds me of my sister, when she was a teenager, when she was into Backstreet Boys, and she knew all the guys' names and their favorite food and their color and every little thing about their persona. But she was 15. These men are full-grown adults who follow around teenagers to see them perform and know everything about their life. They even go to meetups so they can talk to them, hug them, shake their hand, or get their signature. I don't think I have the time, energy, or the passion to get into any group as much as these guys do, especially a group that has little girl teenagers. So that's why I never got into idols. And related to that is music. Music in Japan is very interesting and varied. And just as I went through phases as a teen and an adult, I went through phases in Japanese music as well. And when I first arrived in Japan, like I said, I didn't speak any Japanese, so I had no idea about any kind of Japanese music until one of my students, she was a guitarist in a rock band at her university. She introduced me to a band called Asian Kung Fu Generation, and then I started getting into bands like them. She also introduced me to High Standard and L Garden. So I would say my first few years in Japan, I was really into that punk rock or pop rock kind of like music by Japanese bands. And even to this day, I do listen to music by these kind of bands such as Radwimps or Kanabun. But the second time I came to Japan, I was with my wife, and I was in a more adult setting, so I was more into like the mainstream music that mostly every Japanese person knows. So a lot of bands or musicians like Utada Hikaru or Yuzu or Exile, Kari Pamyu Pamyu, Spitz, stuff like that. Stuff that pretty much every Japanese all ages know. That was the kind of music I was really into. All the teachers, the parents, even the students around me, they all knew all these songs and they all talked about them, and it was always on TV. So I decided to listen to a lot of music, and I was really into that kind of mainstream Japanese music. But it's very, very rare now that I listen to Japanese music. And I think the reason why I'm not really a fan of Japanese music anymore, or why I'm not really deeply connected to any Japanese music, is the same reason why I'm not deeply connected or a fan to any specific English music anymore. Like when I was in university, I was in love with a whole bunch of bands like Panic at the Disco and Fall Out Boy, and even like Bruno Mars and Michael Jackson and stuff like that. And I still listen to a lot of that stuff still, but I think I realized that in general my music consumption has gone down drastically. And I think the biggest reason is my work. I used to work really far in different schools all over the place, and I used to travel by bus and train almost 5 hours, 6 hours a day sometimes. And so all I did was listen to music on my phone. But now that I live in a town where my work is 10 minutes away from me, I don't even use my headphones anymore to go to school or work. The only time I listen to music is at the gym, which sucks because in Hokkaido I was in a band, and so that was kind of the biggest things of my life at that time. But like I said, in this phase of my life, music is not really a big part of my everyday life. I sound so boring now. Now let's talk about Japanese entertainment like TV, movies, and dramas. So many foreigners actually complain that Japanese TV is boring and it sucks, but I disagree. I think it's quite interesting and fun. I actually liked Japanese TV, and I used to watch it all the time when I was married with my Japanese wife. There was a lot of TV shows like quiz shows that were interesting, or funny comedy shows, or shows that are kind of like funny game shows or weird prank shows. I used to love all that kind of stuff on Japanese TV. But after I became single, I also moved to Chiba, and I didn't have a TV, so I stopped watching Japanese TV. And instead of TV, I started watching stuff online, either with YouTube or with Netflix. And now I do have a TV, but I only use it in the morning to watch news or get the weather. And in the evening, I usually stick to Netflix. And even on Netflix, I don't watch any Japanese movies or dramas. Mayu is learning English. She wants to kind of improve her English. So we watch a lot of either movies or TV dramas, American or English, to help her with her listening. And although I like Japanese TV, I don't really like Japanese dramas or Japanese movies that much. There's a few that I like, and I've recommended before on my YouTube channel. But there's not a lot of, especially recently, shows or movies that I get into. I just find the storyline is not that interesting, or the actors, I don't know them and I don't connect with them at all. So I usually tend to go towards like American TV dramas or movies, shows like Stranger Things or Modern Family or American Horror Story, stuff like that. It's much more interesting to me than Japanese entertainment. And I'm not hating on Japanese dramas or Japanese actors or Japanese movies. They're all great, they're very talented, and if someone does recommend a show or a movie, I do watch it and I do like it. And another thing is, because my Japanese is not so good, to understand it I'd have to focus and pay attention a lot, which I can do sometimes. But if I'm just eating dinner and I just want to relax and watch something, watching a Japanese drama or Japanese TV show because they don't have English subtitles, I'm sure it'll help me improve my Japanese, but it's just hard to do and hard to focus while you're eating or something. Now let's talk about Japanese culture. A lot of people in Japan stay for the culture. There's something about Japanese culture that they really like, whether it is like martial arts or green tea ceremony or some kind of specific sport or activity or origami or something that's very Japanesey that keeps them here. And I do enjoy all of those things a little bit, but I've never been fully invested in something that's like a Japanese culture item that I can't live without. And I think the reason is because in Japan, when you join a Japanese activity, you have to put 100% in, and it takes a lot of time and effort and focus to do that activity. For example, when I was in Hokkaido, someone asked me if I wanted to join Yosakoi. And Yosakoi is like a group dance thing. If you go to Japanese festivals, summer festivals, you usually see like university groups or different groups doing this kind of like choreographed dance. And I thought that was kind of cool, and I like music, so I thought I would join it. But then I found out that you have to practice twice a week for 2 hours a day, including the weekend, and you have to pay to get the special costumes, and you have to have there was events almost like every month where you'd have to perform. And so everyone had to have the dance down exactly. So you basically had to practice every day at home plus come in twice a week. And it was just so much effort and so much stuff to do while I was working, and I was walking Maple and taking care of the housework and chores and stuff. And just it was so time consuming that I decided that after 2 or 3 months I just couldn't take it anymore, and I had to quit. And Japanese people take things very seriously when it comes to hobbies. So if you're in any kind of association or any kind of group or any kind of club or activity, be prepared to spend a lot of time with those people. And that's great. You can make friends and get to know Japanese people and be part of the community and partake in all these events. But it takes up so much time that you'll have to give up other parts of your life. So I just couldn't find anything that I loved so much that I was willing to give up a lot of free time that I had. So if you're a foreigner and you're really into judo, for example, you will be putting a lot of time into your judo practice, and your fellow Japanese judoers will definitely welcome you, and you'll be part of the judo group. But if you're just kind of into it on the surface and just kind of want to check it out once in a while and not really put a lot of effort into it, you'll find that you won't be too welcome. And that brings me to the final point: people who live here for their job. So a lot of people who come to Japan, they're here for their job, meaning whatever they're doing in Japan, whether they're teaching English or they're working in IT or they're working at a restaurant or whatever they're doing it not only because they love Japan, but because they love what they do in Japan. In my case, I came to Japan originally because I wanted to see a different culture and kind of get away from the life that I was used to. I started as an eikaiwa teacher, which gave me the chance to meet a lot of different people, different age groups and different backgrounds, and I got to get to know the local life of Japan through meeting all these students of mine through eikaiwa. Then as a kindergarten teacher, I got to be part of an actual classroom where I was in a group full of 30 kids, and I kind of got to see what it was like to be a child in Japan. I also got to do a lot of fun games and singing and interacting with children, and it gave me a whole new perspective of life because I never really interacted with children before that. Then as an ALT, I actually got to be an actual part of an educational system, the Board of Education, and I got to be in a public classroom teaching a curriculum that was created by the Japanese government. It was also a good chance to work with professional teachers. And I have to honestly say, I've enjoyed every single job I've had in Japan. Of course, no job is perfect and there's always pros and cons, but considering some of the stuff that I was doing in Canada, working in Japan was amazing. But here's the problem. Long term, I don't particularly feel that I am a true teacher at heart, and I don't see myself being a teacher in Japan indefinitely. Especially as older I get in Japan, I notice the riskier it is trying to be a teacher here. Since I've come to Japan and every company I've worked for, my salary has always either remained the same or gone down. It's never gone up. And there's no real such thing as a promotion for English teachers. So you either continue as an English teacher and hope that the salary remains at least livable, or you get out. And the few English teachers that are doing well in Japan is mainly because they've started their own school, they have like a master's or a PhD, and they work at an international school, or they work at a university, or they're married to a Japanese person who has a really good income, so their income doesn't have to be that high. No ALT or Eikaiwa or kindergarten teacher I know has really gotten pay raises or has any kind of job security. That being said, I am pretty lucky with the job I have now. The Board of Education I work for now treats teachers pretty kindly, and they're pretty fair. But English language education is changing in Japan, and who knows what's coming in the future. AI and robots are about to replace ALTs. Anyway, Jay, this was a giant rambling video trying to answer why I stay in Japan despite not having any particular passion or any particular connection to this country. And I guess to answer your question, all I can say is if I wasn't here, I don't know what I would be doing. I guess I could go back to Canada and look for a job there, but even then, what would I do? In Japan, I speak English, I make mediocre YouTube videos, I play with my dog and cat, I hang out with my girlfriend Mayu, and I have a pretty interesting and enjoyable life. Do I want to go back to Canada? Yeah, probably someday. But for now, I'm in Japan because in Japan, life is easy, the food is delicious, and the people are kind. Plus, because of Corona and not having even one vaccine shot yet, I'm kind of stuck here anyway. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, please thumbs up and share and subscribe. Anything and everything to help my channel come back from the dead. Also, if you want to support me even more, you can go to Patreon, and for as little as $1 a month, you can get videos that are not available on YouTube. Anyway, thanks for watching, take care, and peace.
I am not Mr. Lebowski. You're Mr. Lebowski. I'm the dude. So that's what you call me, you know? That or his dudeness or duder or, El Duderino.